Lee Pomeroy. On January 4, 2019, around 1 p.m., Lee Pomeroy boarded the train at London Road Station in Guildford with his 14-year-old son. Shortly after, 36-year-old Darrell Penseal entered the train at the next stop, and what should have been a routine ride home took a fatal turn. Soon after boarding, Darren got into an argument with Lee over a blocked aisle. The exchange lasted only a few seconds before Darren walked away to another carriage. But Lee wouldn't let it go. He followed him, leaving his son behind. In the next carriage, the confrontation resumed. The men continued arguing and pointing at each other. Then, in just 25 seconds, Darren pulled out a knife and stabbed Lee 18 times. Darren fled the train at the next stop, where his girlfriend picked him up. Meanwhile, Lee's son remained alone in the carriage as paramedics arrived at Horsley Station. Lee was pronounced dead at the scene. Darren Penseal was arrested the following day at his girlfriend's home. On July 12, 2019, he was convicted of the crime and sentenced to life in prison. Fell onto the tracks. On June 3, 2025, CCTV footage at the Pusat Bandar Pachong LRT station, Selangor, captured a heartbreaking moment of unawareness. A 36-year-old Taiwanese man who was walking alone on the platform edge accidentally fell onto the train tracks. As soon as his body hit the ground, he looked up to see an oncoming train, but it was too late to run back. The train struck him before stopping a few seconds later. Onlookers stood on the platform edge, horrified and waiting for emergency responders to get his body out from under the train. He was pronounced dead at the scene by the fire and rescue team. Although the CCTV footage answered all questions, police are carrying out investigations and have ruled out foul play. To avoid any repetition of such incidents, the transport ministers have instructed Prasarana Malaysia Berhad, Rapid Rail's owner, to install platform screen doors at all LRT stations. Paulus Petrosinus. On July 13, 2020, Paulus Petrosinus was captured on several CCTV cameras laughing and playing with the man who would later take his life. In the hours leading up to his death, 24-year-old Paulus was seen with 20-year-old Sean Buell. The two appeared to be in great spirits, laughing, joking, and chatting casually in the corridor of a building before heading to a nearby convenience store. But everything changed when they returned to a block of flats in Cherville Rise, Heath Town. Inside was the apartment of Paulus's girlfriend, where an argument broke out between the two men over a deal. In the heat of the moment, Sean pulled out a hunting knife and stabbed Paulus. The wound was catastrophic. The knife pierced his diaphragm, liver, and the protective sac around his heart. One of his coronary arteries was completely severed. Paulus was pronounced dead at the scene. Meanwhile, Sean had fled the building, leaving his friend to die. Despite the brutal nature of the attack, Sean walked the streets surprisingly calm and collected. He disposed of the knife, called a taxi, and made his way to Shrewsbury. He was arrested there 2 days later. Although the perpetrator has been caught, the knife is still missing. Vermont's authorities combed through hours of CCTV footage, during which time Sean kept changing his story. At one point, he claimed an epileptic fit caused him to black out. Later, he said he and Paulus had been sparring with knives and that he couldn't remember anything afterwards. Eventually, the weapon was found, hidden in a pile of dirt wedged between a fence and a wall. On January 13, 2022, Sean Buell was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 20 years. Cristina Ortiza Lozano. On September 21, 2019, around 9:50 p.m., CCTV captured Cristina Ortiza Lozano walking with a man on a date. First, they went to Springle's Ice Cream Parlor, then the Giddy Bridge pub on London Road. Unbeknownst to them, Cristina's ex-boyfriend was secretly following. In April 2018, Cristina moved to the UK from Spain with her longtime boyfriend Abdelaziz Eldiat Chioy Orzut. Couple met in school, dated for 12 years, and lived together in Liverpool before relocating to Southampton. But in August 2019, Cristina ended the relationship. While she had moved on, Abdulaziz had not. That night, he was lurking in the shadows, watching, following, and waiting. As Christina and her date walked toward her flat on Spear Road, CCTV caught Abdulaziz trailing behind. Outside her apartment, he stood holding flowers. When Christina arrived, he followed her inside while her date waited outside. Once inside, he grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed her 23 times in the neck, chest, and abdomen. Christina was pronounced dead at the scene. Police found Abdulaziz in the garden, bleeding from stab wounds to his chest and other minor injuries. He was treated and later charged in court. On March 17, 2020, Abdulaziz Elliot Choi Orzat was found guilty of the crime and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 19 years. Twin criminals. On January 13, 2010, 16-year-old twin sisters Yasmia and Tasmia Whitehead returned home from school to find their mother dead in a pool of her own blood. One of the twins ran outside and flagged down a deputy patrolling the streets. This triggered a series of investigations, but nothing prepared the police or the public for what they would uncover. First, the police treated the girls as victims who had just lost their mother in a brutal attack. The 34-year-old woman was lying in her bathtub at her home in Georgia. She was bleeding from the head, had bite marks, cuts, and scratches all over her body. But as the questioning began, something didn't sit right. The twins claimed their mother, Nikki Whitehead, had locked her bedroom door so they didn't see her before leaving for school. They added that they left home around 8 a.m. and were only 10 minutes late for their first class. During the interrogation, the girls cried and insisted they wanted their mother back, but soon, things grew suspicious. Detectives noticed they were covered completely and even had gloves on their hands. So they decided to split them and interrogate them separately. When detectives asked them to remove the gloves they were wearing, they found fresh cuts and bite marks on both girls. Twins claimed the injuries came from an earlier fight with each other. One of them even said she bit herself when she was stressed. To convince the officers, she started to bite herself after she was separated from her sister. Despite the inconsistencies, police allowed them to go home while they carried out a deeper investigation over the next 4 months, gathering forensic evidence, bite mark impressions, and blood samples. The girls claimed they arrived at school by 8:15 a.m., but CCTV footage showed them entering school after 10 a.m. Earlier footage also showed them at a gas station at 10:10 a.m., either refueling or buying something. Their alibi was clearly false. In May 2010, Yasmia and Tasmia were arrested and charged with their mother's death. They were held in a juvenile facility until their case was moved to adult court. For nearly 4 years, the sisters denied any role in their mother's death, even as police uncovered more forensic proof and caught more lies when questioning them separately. But then, one of them cracked. In January 2014, Tasmia Whitehead pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, falsification, and possession of a knife during a crime. She revealed that a fight had broken out between them and their mother that morning. In a fit of rage, they hit her with a ceramic pot, bit her, and stabbed her several times. After she died, they dragged her body to the master bathroom and tried to clean up the mess. They realized it was too much, made up a story, and went to school as if nothing had happened. In February 2014, Yasmia also pleaded guilty to the same charges. Both girls were sentenced to 30 years in prison and are currently held in separate facilities under the Georgia Department of Corrections. Grace Millane. On December 1st, 2018, Grace Millane met with her Tinder match outside the Sky City complex in Auckland, New Zealand. It was under a Christmas tree and she took a picture of herself to send to her family. That was the last they would hear of her. Her date with 26-year-old Jessie Kempson kicked off in good spirits. They started at Andy's Burger Bar at Sky City, where they ordered multiple drinks and chatted for about 90 minutes. From there, they walked over a few blocks to the Mexican cafe on Victoria Street, where they ordered more drinks and stayed for another hour. Throughout the date, Grace was smiling, talking, and interacting with Jesse comfortably. By 8:30 p.m., they moved to another bar across the City Life Hotel, where they continued drinking, kissing, and socializing. Later at 9:40 p.m., CCTV in the hotel lobby captured them walking arm in arm and smiling before using the elevator that leads to Jesse's room. This was the last confirmed sighting of Grace alive. By the time Jesse Kempson was captured again on camera, he was alone and making unusual purchases. The morning of December 2nd, 2018, Grace's 22nd birthday, she was already shoved into a suitcase. Between 8 and 8:40 a.m., CCTV captured Jesse at the warehouse buying a large suitcase. Then he visited a Countdown supermarket where he purchased cleaning supplies before returning to his room. Later, he left his room to rent a red rental car and returned to City Life Hotel. That afternoon, while Grace's body was still in his room, he went on another Tinder date with another woman. Later that evening, between 7 and 9 p.m., he bought more carpet cleaners and hired a rug doctor machine, then returned it after use. At 9:26 p.m., Jesse wheeled 2 suitcases to the rental car parked at Wilson Car Park. One of them held Grace Millene's body. On the morning of December 3rd, he drove into the ITM hardware store in Kamau, where he purchased a shovel and bolts. Then, he buried Grace in a shallow grave along Scenic Drive. To remove forensic evidence and bloodstains, he took his clothes to the dry cleaners. After that, he proceeded to a self-service vehicle wash to wash off any underlying bloodstains on the vehicle. Meanwhile, Grace's family, who were far away in the United Kingdom, grew increasingly worried when she didn't contact them on her birthday. On December 7th, they reported her missing, and the police investigation began immediately. After reviewing hours of CCTV footage, Jesse was identified and arrested on December 8, 2018 at the City Life Hotel. At first, he denied having anything to do with her disappearance, but when evidence was piling up against him, he confessed to taking her life. According to him, her death was the result of a consensual roughshots that went wrong, but the jury didn't believe him. Eventually, he was charged with the death of Grace Millane and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 17 years.